this video, we're going to be looking at the Harley Benton SC Custom in vintage black, and I'm asking the question, are Harley Benton guitars really that good? Like all my reviews, this is going to be pretty lengthy, so if you want to jump to any specific section of this video, just use the timestamps below. And if you want to know more about the SC Custom 2, I have affiliate links in the description box below. Now, my guitar was a B stock that I bought from Thomann. The first one they sent me had some major issues. I'm going to be talking about that later in the video. This one here is much better, but it's not perfect. So today I'm going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this Harley Benton guitar. Now, I remember when I started playing guitar in the mid 80s, when you said cheap guitar, you really meant it. You meant something that was ugly, it was dirt cheap, it was unplayable. So now when I'm looking at those guitars, like the Harley Benton, at the price point, I was really intrigued because I know that today in this particular market, a lot of the affordable stuff doesn't mean junk. It doesn't mean throwaway instruments. If you put some time in them, and you fix them and you mod them, they can become stellar instrument for the price point. Now, of course, they don't compare to Gibsons and Suhrs and all that stuff, but we're still talking reasonably within a price point where you can invest just a bit of money and make that instrument even better than when it comes out of the factory. I was hoping to do the same thing with the Harley Benton. That's why I got this guitar. It reminds me of a guitar I used to own when I was 16. I had a 1991 Les Paul Custom. Had to sell it a few years ago. I'm not trying to play the world's tiniest violin here. I'm just stating the facts. I was broke and I had to get through Christmas with 3 kids, so I sold the guitar. And it's not that I kind of haven't compensated since with a ton of guitar, but when I saw this one, it kind of reminded me of my Les Paul. It's black, it has the gold hardware, and it kind of looks like that guitar. So out of nostalgia, I got this particular instrument, and I knew I wasn't buying my Les Paul. I knew I wasn't even close in terms of quality, but I was kind of wanting to, you know, scratch that itch and get a similar looking instrument. So that's why I got this particular guitar. The Harley Benton SC Custom 2 Vintage Black has a mahogany body, a mahogany neck. The neck is a set neck. The fretboard is made of Jatoba. It has white pearloid inlays in the fretboard, modern C-shape, 20 millimeters at the first fret and 22 millimeters at the 12th fret. Ivory colored binding, 13.78 inch radius, a 628 millimeter scale length, graphite nut, 22 medium jumbo frets, 2 Roswell humbuckers, 2-tone 1 volume, push-pull on the tone knob, 3-way switch, 2 pneumatic bridge, Grover tuners, satin black paint, and this retails for 235 euros regular, and I bought mine for 159 euros B stock. Now, the first thing about this instrument is that it looks good. It has that matte black finish with the gold hardware, really reminiscent of that guitar I used to own. It really made me think of it when I saw it, although the shape is more similar to an ESP LTD type guitar than an actual Gibson Les Paul, but regardless, it is a very good looking guitar. It comes equipped with Grover tuners, which I've had no issues with. They stay in tune. There's none of them that are too loose or too tight. They are very, very functional, and the ratio on there is more than acceptable. I don't know if it's an 18:1 or 16:1, but you know, it feels similar to the ones on my Epiphone Les Paul. The neck is very comfortable as well, which really surprised me. It is thinner and it has a flatter radius than I'm used to, but regardless, it is very comfortable to play and I didn't struggle with it. The body on this guitar is really thin, which makes it fairly light, and you would expect the neck to be heavy, kind of like on an SG, but it isn't. It is really well balanced. The neck joint is also very comfortable when you want to go play lead parts, and the cutaway has also a comfort cut there, which gives you even higher access to those higher notes. And there is a belly cut, so when you're a big fat guy like me and you have belly cuts, that's a plus on a guitar. The intonation is spot on, and I've had no tuning issues with the guitar. And I also like the idea that there's a coil tap. It makes the guitar a bit more flexible. If you want to get like faux single coil tones out of it, it does it really well. The first thing that bugs me about this guitar is the three-way toggle. It's not that big of a deal. You can always mod it later, but stock, it's very loose. You kind of never really know which position you're on because it kind of easily gets switched. It's not like on a Gibson or a higher quality guitar where you hear that click and you know where it's recessed. This one here kind of feels loose, which is kind of a bother, and I tend to have to look at the guitar to really know where I'm at. I can always hear which position, but sometimes I'm never sure if I'm in between or if I'm on the neck pickup. So that's one of my gripes with this guitar. It comes with strop lacks. Yeah, it comes with strop lacks. It's from another planet. You have no idea how deadly it is. It is super dangerous. My second point are the strap locks that come with it. The first guitar they sent me didn't have them. This one did, and they are the goofiest thing I've ever seen. They're big and bulky. They work, but they're not that great. I wouldn't trust like a valuable guitar with those strap locks. It's so easy to miscalculate whether they're in properly or not. Anyways, they're not the best, and they look goofy as hell, so I just took them off and I don't even bother with them. So that's my opinion on those strap locks. Personally, I think it's not the selling point for this particular guitar. My biggest gripe with this guitar is the neck pickup. You can always upgrade it, but stock, the way it comes, it is muddy, inarticulate, even on clean tones. I've lowered the pickup and raised the pull pieces, and even then, it still sounds like garbage. So that is something to consider if you use the neck pickup a lot for clean parts. This thing, as far as I'm concerned, is total crap. So speaking of aesthetic, the paint job on this is not the best. It is blotchy. It looks like it was painted in a barn without any airflow whatsoever, and that dust fell on this thing. It really doesn't look all that great. It looks cool from afar, but it's as soon as you start to zoom in and look at the small details, there's some cracks, there's a bit of paint run. It looks like whoever painted it did the binding job like just before painting it, so now there's paint on the binding and there's like fingerprints, there's these little paint blotches. It looks like a beaver was gnawing at the nut on my guitar because it's all scratched up. I mean, the binding doesn't look all that great. It's really yellow in some parts and beige in others. It's got paint stains. It's got scratches. The nut looks so dirty on this thing. It looks like someone smeared whatever ink on there or something. It really doesn't look all that good. But that's just aesthetic. Personally, I don't give a crap. Like, it doesn't bother me whatsoever because I'm not going to be like holding this thing like I paid $3,000 for it. I would be pissed if I paid $3,000 and that's what I got. But for 159 euros, not that big of a deal. But for some people that might be important. That's why I'm underlying that fact. The aesthetic, once you start to look at it, whether it's the fretboard or the paint job or the binding, that's where the flaws come out, and that's where you know what you just bought. Like, you bought a 235 euro guitar, that's what you get. It's fundamentally sound. You can play with it. There's no problem. It can be upgraded, but the money wasn't spent on all the fine tuning and details. Speaking of which, there's also this really weird thing with this guitar, which are the frets. So when I received my guitar, I took it apart and started looking at the pickups and all the stuff that went into it. And when I got to the fretboard, I was kind of shocked to notice that it was all scratched up. I'm talking about the fret wires. They were scratched from the first one to the last one on the fretboard. I don't know what the hell happened at the factory, but they were really scratched up. These weren't polished. I took it on the bench. I did what I could to polish them. And even then, some of those scratches are really deep. They're not affecting playability, but you can still see them. So I'm probably going to have to polish them maybe once or twice again to try to bring it as smooth as I can. And I think other people have mentioned this problem before where the fret wires were really weird and scratchy. I don't know what would cause that, but you know, that's just the thing. If you're not used to doing maintenance on your guitars and you buy one of them and they're like that, you're going to have to take it to a luthier and get it checked at and get a proper setup done on your guitar. Okay, so here's my opinion. If you like to mod your own instruments and you can do repairs and maintenance on your own instrument, these guitars make a whole lot of sense. They're a great platform. They're sound to start with. Fundamentally, there's nothing wrong with them. You're just going to have to tweak it to taste if you don't like the pickups and the hardware and all that stuff. It's an easy job to do. You can mod it. If you're a beginner, you might want to take the instrument to a professional so they can have a look at it and make it playable and make it so that you're not going to struggle with the instrument. If you're someone who's looking for a backup guitar for your main guitar and you don't want to throw a whole lot of money, let's say your main guitar is an ESP or a PRS or something like that, and you just need an affordable option as a backup, these guitars make a lot of sense, especially once modded and well tweaked. If you're a studio cat and you don't have something like that with those humbuckers, you mainly play single coils, that's pretty much my scenario, then this is a great option if you don't want to put like thousands of dollars towards a PRS or a Gibson. Then you get one of those and you mod it to taste. So it really comes down to this. No matter who you are, if you get one of these and you don't like it stock, it's really easy to just upgrade the parts on it and to make it a more quality instrument. The basics of this guitar, there's nothing wrong with it. The neck is comfortable. It stays in tune. There's really nothing fundamentally wrong with it. It's just that those parts are inexpensive. And if you're used to quality parts, it's going to bug you. So you're going to want to upgrade it. And I think the Harley Benton are a great platform for that. Expect to put a bit of time and money to make this more playable and do some upgrades on it, but once you do, you're going to be rewarded with a very decent instrument. If you enjoyed this video, there are plenty more like it right here on screen. Click on one of those videos and I'm going to see you in the next one. Cheers.